Hey everyone, tonight we're going to dive into the extraordinary life of Joan of Arc, the young French heroine whose courage and faith turned the tide of a nation at war. Picture this: a teenage girl standing in a quiet field, hearing voices from saints that promise to reshape a kingdom. You probably won't believe how one peasant girl could lead armies, crown a king, and face fire with unshakable resolve. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I love knowing where you're tuning in from. Now, turn down the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soft background music, and let's get started tonight. You're standing in Domremy, a sleepy village tucked in the soft folds of northeastern France, sometime around 1412. The air smells of damp earth and fresh-cut hay, and the horizon stretches out in gentle waves of green hills dotted with grazing sheep. Thatched roof cottages huddle together, their chimneys puffing lazy curls of smoke into the evening sky. It's the kind of place where nothing much happens, where the rhythm of life follows the seasons, spring's rushing rivers, summer's golden barley, winter's quiet snow. This is where Joan of Arc, or Jeanne d'Arc, as the locals call her, takes her first breath. You can almost see her, a small girl with rough hands and bright eyes, chasing chickens or kneeling in the village church, whispering prayers like they're secrets only she and God share. Joan's parents, Jacques and Isabelle d'Arc, are farmers, simple, sturdy folk with enough land to feed their 5 children, but no wealth to speak of. Joan, the youngest, grows up spinning wool, fetching water, and helping her mother knead dough for the day's bread. She doesn't go to school. Most girls don't. Reading and writing are for monks and nobles, not for a peasant girl in a forgotten corner of France. But don't mistake her lack of letters for a lack of sharpness. You notice how she listens to the wind and the fields, to the priest's sermons, to the stories of saints who fought dragons and faced kings. She soaks it all in, her heart already bigger than the village that holds her. France, though, is a mess. The 100 Years' War has been grinding on since 1337, long before Joan was born, and it's left the kingdom fractured. England holds the north, their armies burning towns and stealing harvests. The rightful heir, Charles the Dauphin, hasn't been crowned, his claim mocked by enemies who call him the so-called king. You can feel the weight of it, even here in Domremy, where war is just a distant shadow soldiers passing through, taking grain, leaving whispers of battles lost. Joan doesn't know the politics yet, but she feels the land's ache. She prays more than she plays, slipping into the church of Saint Remy to kneel for hours, lips moving silently, eyes closed, like she's hearing something you can't. Here's the odd thing. Villagers start to notice her devotion. They whisper about the girl who prays too much, who seems to see things nobody else does. She's different, they say, not with suspicion, but with a quiet awe, like they're half expecting her to sprout wings. Historians still debate whether her faith was just piety or something more, a spark of destiny nobody could name yet. You watch her now, this girl barely out of childhood, and you wonder how someone so ordinary could be so extraordinary. It's like she's already carrying a secret bigger than Domremy, bigger than France itself. Let's lighten the mood for a second. Imagine Joan trying to herd those sheep. She's probably better at praying than chasing woolly rebels across a muddy field. Or picture her accidentally burning the bread because she's too busy talking to God. "Sorry, Mama, the saints distracted me again." You can almost hear her say. But seriously, Her quiet life is about to get loud. The world beyond Domremy is waiting, and soon it'll know her name. You're still in this peaceful village, but you can sense it, something stirring. Joan's not just spinning wool anymore. She's spinning a future nobody could have predicted. The church bells ring out, soft and steady, like a heartbeat. She's listening, always listening, and soon you'll hear what she hears. For now, though, you're just standing in the fields, watching a girl who doesn't yet know she'll change the world. You're still in Domremy, but the quiet fields and slow-moving rivers can't shield you from the chaos beyond. France is bleeding. The 100 Years' War, a brutal tug-of-war between England and France, has been raging since 1337 decades before you or Joan ever set foot in this world. It's not just a fight over land, it's a battle for the French crown itself. English kings claim they're the rightful rulers, while French nobles spit at the idea. By the time Joan's a teenager, around 1425, the kingdom is a patchwork of misery. Northern France is under English boots, towns burned to ash, fields trampled, and families torn apart. You can almost smell the smoke on the wind, even here in this sleepy village. The rightful heir, Charles the Dauphin, is a ghost of a leader, uncrowned and doubted. His father's death left him with a shaky claim, and the English mock him, calling him a pretender. Worse, France is eating itself alive. Civil war splits the nobles, with factions like the Burgundians siding with England for power. You feel the weight of it, the despair creeping through the land like a fog. Entire cities vanish in a night. Crops are stolen before they ripen. Fathers and brothers march off and don't come back. Orléans, a key city on the Loire River, is under siege, its walls battered, its people starving. If it falls, the English could sweep through the heart of France, and Charles' dream of a crown might crumble to dust. Back in Domremy, you see Joan, maybe 13 now, helping her father in the fields or praying in the church. She's still just a girl, calloused hands, plain dress, no sword or armor in sight. But you notice how she pauses sometimes, staring at the horizon like she's hearing something far off. The war hasn't touched her village directly, but its shadow is there. Soldiers pass through, taking grain, leaving fear. You catch a glimpse of flames in the distance one night, a village burning just beyond the hills. Joan sees it too, and you wonder what she's thinking. She doesn't know the names of generals or the politics of crowns, but she knows the land's suffering. Her prayers grow longer, her silence is deeper. Here's a strange detail. Joan's village is technically loyal to the French crown, but it's so close to Burgundian territory that English sympathizers sometimes wander through. One day, a Burgundian soldier demands bread from her family, and Joan, barely a teen, stares him down, refusing to bow. It's not rebellion, it's conviction, like she already knows she's meant for something bigger. Historians still debate whether these early moments shaped her courage or if she was always destined to defy. Was it just a spark of teenage stubbornness, or was heaven already whispering in her ear? Let's take a breather with a joke. Imagine Joan trying to negotiate with that soldier. Take the bread, but only if you say France forever first. Or picture her chasing him off with a broom, like he's just another pesky chicken. Okay, one more. Maybe she prayed so hard, the soldier just got tired and left, thinking, this girl's got saints on speed dial. But in all seriousness, you can feel the tension building. Joan's world is small, but the war's claws are inching closer. She's not just a girl anymore, she's a spark waiting to ignite. You're standing in Domremy, watching her kneel in the church, lips moving silently. The world beyond is screaming for a miracle, and soon Joan will answer. You're back in Domremy, standing in the warm glow of a summer afternoon, around 1425. The fields hum with crickets, and Joan, just 13, is out in her father's garden, or maybe wandering past the barley fields, her bare feet brushing the earth. The village is still quiet, but something's different now. You can't see it, but you can feel it, a shift in the air, like the moment before a storm. This is when Joan first hears them. The voices, they come softly at first, not like a shout, but like a breeze carrying words only she can understand. A sudden light, warm and golden, wraps around her, and a voice calm, familiar, unshakably real speaks. It's Saint Michael, the archangel, warrior of heaven. Later, Saint Catherine and Saint Margaret join him, their presence as clear to Joan as the church bells ringing across the valley. You watch her pause, her eyes wide, not with fear, but with wonder. She's alone. No one else hears it. But to her, these voices are as real as the ground beneath her feet. They tell her she's chosen to save France, to drive out the English, to lead the Dauphin Charles to his crown in Reims. Imagine that for a second. You're a teenage girl, never held a sword, never left your village, and heaven itself hands you a mission to change a kingdom. You'd probably think it was a fever dream, but Joan doesn't. She believes. Not out of pride, not for glory, but because the voices feel true, like a fire kindled in her chest. Here's the odd detail. Joan doesn't tell anyone at first. Not her parents, not her priest, not even her closest friends. She carries this secret alone, praying in the church of Saint Remy, kneeling for hours as the voices return again and again. They're patient, guiding her to wait, to stay faithful, to prepare her heart. You see her slip into the church at dusk, the stone walls glowing faintly with candlelight, her lips moving in silent prayer. Villagers notice, whispering, "That girl's always praying," but they don't know why. Historians still debate whether these voices were divine revelations or something else, her own intuition, perhaps, shaped by faith in a war-torn world. Did she hear heaven, or was her heart just louder than most? You're standing there, watching her in the garden, and you can almost feel the weight of what's coming. She's still just Joan, spinning wool, fetching water, but she's also something more. A girl with a purpose so big it could swallow the stars. The voices don't scare her, they steady her. They tell her to be patient, but you know patience won't last forever. France is crumbling, Orléans is under siege, and the Dauphin's crown is still just a dream. Joan's waiting, but not for long. Let's lighten things up for a moment. Picture Joan trying to explain the voices to her sheep. "Okay, Fluffy, Saint Michael says I'm going to lead an army, but don't tell the goats." Or imagine her accidentally blurting it out at dinner. "Pass the bread. Oh, and God says I'm saving France." One more. Maybe she practiced her saintly pep talks on the village cats, who just yawned and walked away. But seriously, you can see it in her eyes. She's not just a girl anymore. The voices are real to her, and soon they'll be real to the world. You're standing in Domremy, but the horizon's calling, and Joan's already listening. You're in Domremy, but Joan's world is starting to crack open. It's around 1428, and she's about 16 now, still helping with chores, still praying in the church. But the voices Saint Michael, Saint Catherine, Saint Margaret are louder, more urgent, They're not just whispering comfort anymore. They're pushing her to act. Go, they say. Save France. Lead the Dauphin to his crown. You can see her pause in the fields, her hands still on the spindle, her eyes fixed on something nobody else can see. She's not a dreamer spinning fantasies. She's a girl with a mission, and it's burning her up inside. But how does a peasant girl, who's never left her village, convince anyone she's been sent by God? You're about to find out. Joan knows she needs to reach Charles, the Dauphin, hiding in Chinon, far across war-torn France. But first, she has to start closer to home. You follow her to Vaucouleurs, a nearby town where Robert de Baudricourt, a gruff local commander loyal to the French cause, holds sway. Picture this. Joan, in her plain wool dress, walking into his stronghold, surrounded by soldiers who smirk at the sight of her. She's small, unarmored, unarmed, but when she speaks, her voice doesn't waver. God has sent me, she tells Baudricourt. I must see the Dauphin. I will lead his army and crown him king. You can almost hear the room go quiet, then erupt in laughter. A girl leading armies? It's absurd. Like a cow deciding to run for mayor. Baudricourt sends her away, probably thinking she's just a fanciful kid. But Joan doesn't quit. You see her come back, day after day, standing at his gate, calm but relentless. She's not shouting or begging, she's just there, like a rock the tide can't move. The townsfolk start to notice. They don't laugh, they whisper. Some bring her bread, others pray with her. Her certainty is infectious, like a song you can't stop humming. Finally, Baudricourt cracks not because he believes her, not yet, but because her persistence is impossible to ignore. He agrees to send her to Chinon with a small escort, a horse, and men's clothing for safety on the road. You watch her ride out, no longer just the girl from Domremy, but someone stepping into a story bigger than herself. Here's the odd detail. Joan cuts her hair short and wears men's clothes for the journey, not to disguise herself, but for practicality. Roads are dangerous, and a dress won't do. This choice raises eyebrows, and later, it'll be twisted against her. Historians still debate whether her cross-dressing was pure pragmatism or a bold statement of her mission's urgency. Was she just being practical, or was she already defying the rules of her time? For a quick laugh, imagine Baudricourt's face when Joan first walks in, like she's applying for a job as France's CEO with no resume. Or picture her trying on those men's clothes, tripping over the tunic and muttering, "Saint Michael, you didn't mention fashion was part of the deal." One more. Maybe she convinced Baudricourt by staring so hard he thought she'd summon a saint to scold him. But seriously, you're watching her ride toward Chinon, through enemy lands, with nothing but faith and a few guards. The voices are guiding her, and you can feel it, the war's about to meet its match. You're riding with Joan now, through the muddy, war-scarred paths of France. In early 1429, the wind is cold, biting at your face as you follow her small escort towards Chinon, where the Dauphin Charles hides in a fortress, surrounded by skeptical nobles and nervous guards. The journey is brutal. 11 days across 300 miles of enemy territory. You dodge English patrols, skirt burned-out villages, and cross rivers swollen with spring rain. Joan, dressed in men's clothing, her hair cropped short, rides at the front, her eyes fixed ahead like she's following a star only she can see. She's 17, untrained, unknown, but there's a fire in her that makes the soldiers around her sit straighter in their saddles. You can smell the damp leather of their armor, hear the creak of saddles, and feel the weight of a kingdom hanging by a thread. Chinon's castle looms ahead, its stone walls grim against the gray sky. You enter the great hall with Joan, where Charles waits, but he's playing a trick. To test her, he hides in the crowd, dressed as a common courtier, while another man sits on the throne, pretending to be the Dauphin. The room buzzes with whispers, nobles in fine silks, soldiers with scarred hands, all staring at this peasant girl who claims she's sent by God. You expect her to falter, to hesitate, but Joan doesn't. She walks straight through the crowd, past the fake Dauphin, and stops before Charles. "You are my king," she says, her voice clear as a bell. The room goes silent. You can almost hear hearts stop. She's never seen him before, no portraits, no messengers. Yet she knows him, like the voices whispered his face into her soul. Charles, cautious and unsure, isn't ready to trust her yet. You watch as he orders his advisors to question her. For days, they probe her story, her visions, her voices, her purpose. Joan stands firm, answering with a calm that makes the nobles shift uncomfortably. She doesn't ask for riches or titles. She asks for an army to lift the siege of Orléans and lead Charles to his coronation in Reims. It's a wild demand, but her certainty is like a blade sharp, unyielding. Slowly, the court bends. Charles, desperate for a miracle, agrees to give her a chance. You see her fitted with armor, a sword, and a white banner stitched with lilies and the names of Jesus and Mary. She's no longer just a girl. She's a soldier of heaven. Here's the odd detail. During her questioning, Joan predicts a French victory at Orléans before she even arrives there. A bold claim for a girl who's never seen a battlefield. Historians still debate whether this was divine foresight or just uncanny confidence. Was she guessing, or did she truly see the future? For a quick laugh, imagine Joan spotting Charles in the crowd and whispering to a guard, "Nice try, but my saints don't fall for royal hide-and-seek." Or picture her trying on her armor for the first time, muttering, "This weighs more than my sheep." One more. Maybe she told the nobles, "God sent me, but he didn't say anything about your fancy hats." But seriously, you're standing in Chinon, watching Joan step into history. The voices are louder now, and Orléans is waiting. You can feel it. She's not just riding to a battle. She's riding to a miracle. You're in Chinon still, but the air feels heavier now, charged with doubt and scrutiny. It's early 1429, and Joan, fresh from convincing Charles, stands on the edge of something massive. You can see her, a 17-year-old in borrowed men's clothes, facing a new test, not from soldiers or nobles, but from the church. This isn't just a time of war. It's a time when heresy means fire, and a girl claiming to hear saints raises every eyebrow in the room. Charles, cautious as ever, can't risk backing a heretic, so he sends Joan to Poitiers, where theologians, priests, and scholars wait to dissect her soul. You follow her there, through muddy roads and cold winds, to a stone hall filled with men in robes, their eyes sharp as quills, ready to trap her with words. The questioning begins, and you're right there, watching Joan stand alone before the panel. They fire questions like arrows. Who are these voices? Why you, a peasant girl? What do they say? You can hear the scratch of quills on parchment, recording every word. They're looking for cracks, pride, madness, or worse, something demonic. Joan answers simply, her voice steady, like she's explaining the weather. My voices are Saint Michael, Saint Catherine, and Saint Margaret, she says. They tell me to save France, to crown the Dauphin. The scholars lean forward, expecting her to trip, but she doesn't. She's uneducated, can't read or write, yet her answers are clear, unshakable. You feel the room shift, the air growing tense, not because she's faltering, but because she isn't. One scholar, trying to corner her, asks, "Do you believe you are in God's grace?" It's a trap. If she says yes, she's arrogant. If no, she's unworthy. You hold your breath, but Joan replies, "If I am not, may God put me there. If I am, may He keep me there." The room goes quiet. It's perfect, humble, untouchable. You can almost see the scholars' frowns soften, their quills pause. They find no heresy, no lies, just a girl who believes with every fiber of her being. After days of this, they approve her. You watch as Charles orders a suit of white armor, a sword, and a banner for her, a white cloth with golden lilies, and the names Jesus and Mary. She's no longer just Joan. She's a commander, blessed by the church. Here's the odd detail. During the questioning, Joan refuses to reveal certain details about her voices, saying they're private between her and God. This secrecy frustrates her interrogators, but they let it pass. Historians still debate whether this was strategic caution or pure devotion. Did she hold back to protect her mission? Or was her faith just that personal? For a quick laugh, imagine Joan staring down a grumpy theologian and thinking, "Saint Michael warned me about guys with bad beards." Or picture her practicing for the interrogation with her horse, whispering, "Okay, you be the cranky priest, I'll be me." One more. Maybe she told the scholars, "God's got a plan, but He didn't send me a script." But seriously, you're standing in Poitiers, watching Joan walk out with the church's blessing. Orléans is calling, and her banner's ready to fly. You can feel the ground shaking. She's about to change everything. You're standing in the bustling chaos of a military camp, spring 1429, as Joan prepares for her first real test. The church in Poitiers has given her the green light, and Charles has handed her a sword, a suit of white armor, and a small force of soldiers. But you can feel the skepticism hanging in the air like smoke. These men, hardened fighters, some twice her age, aren't sure about following a 17-year-old girl who's never swung a blade in battle. You watch Joan, her armor glinting in the morning sun, as she moves among them, not barking orders but speaking with a quiet fire that makes heads turn. She's not here to play general. She's here to lead a mission, and her weapon isn't steel. It's a banner, white as snow, stitched with golden lilies, Christ holding the world, and the names Jesus and Mary scrawled across the top. This banner isn't just fabric, it's her soul made visible. You see her clutch it tightly, raising it high as she rides, a beacon in the dust and clamor of the camp. She doesn't carry a sword into battle, not yet, because she says the banner is her strength, a promise from heaven. You hear her tell the soldiers to pray, to confess, to stop swearing and looting. Her camp is disciplined, not by fear but by faith, and it's weirdly contagious. Gruff veterans, who'd normally scoff at a girl giving orders, start to listen. They see her pray before every move, kneeling in the dirt, and something shifts. Maybe it's the way she looks at them, like she sees not just soldiers, but souls. Her first mission is Orléans, a city choking under an English siege since October 1428. You can picture it. Walls crumbling, people starving, morale shattered like broken glass. If Orléans falls, France might follow. Joan's voices have told her this is where she begins, where she proves heaven's promise. You ride with her toward the city, the banner fluttering above, catching every gust like it's alive. The soldiers are skeptical but curious. Some whisper, "She's a saint," others, "a fool." One thing's clear. She's not afraid. She rides at the front, not hiding behind shields, her eyes fixed on Orléans, like it's already hers. Here's the odd detail. Joan bans gambling in her camp, saying it distracts from God's work, which raises some grumbling among the soldiers. Historians still debate whether this strictness won her loyalty or just made her seem eccentric. Did it unify her men, or did it alienate the rougher ones? For a quick laugh, imagine Joan catching a soldier gambling and waving her banner like a scolding mom. No dice until you say 3 Hail Marys. Or picture her trying to rally the troops with, "Come on guys, God's watching, and he's not a fan of your card tricks." One more. Maybe she told her banner, "You're my real MVP. Don't tell the sword." But seriously, you're nearing Orléans now. The city's walls just visible through the haze. Joan's banner is high, her faith higher, and you can feel it. This is where the miracle starts. You're riding toward Orléans, April 1429. The air thick with the smell of wet earth and horse sweat. Joan's at the front, her white banner snapping in the wind, golden lilies glinting like they're lit from within. The city's just ahead, its walls scarred from months of English siege. Since October 1428, Orléans has been suffocating supplies cut off, people eating rats, hope long gone. You can hear the distant thud of English cannons, see smoke curling over the horizon. This is no ordinary battle. It's a chokehold on France's heart. If Orléans falls, the English could sweep through the Loire Valley, and Charles' crown might as well be a paper hat. But Joan, 17 and untested, rides like she's already won. You enter the city with her, and it's electric. Crowds line the walls, their faces gaunt but eyes wide. Children run beside her horse, shouting her name Jean, the maid sent by God. You see women clasp their hands in prayer. Men touch her banner like it's holy. Joan doesn't wave or smile. She's all focus, her voice cutting through the chaos, calling for faith, for courage. She's not here to strategize like a general. She's here to ignite. You watch her ride straight to the French commanders, grizzled men who fought for decades, and tell them to attack, to trust her voices. They hesitate, muttering about plans and defenses, but Joan's not asking. God wills it, she says, and you can feel the air shift. The fighting starts fast. You're there as Joan leads charges, her banner high, never hiding behind the lines. On May 7, she's hit by an arrow above her breast, blood soaking her armor. You wince as she's carried off, but hours later, she's back, wound, bandaged, banner raised, shouting for her men to press on. You see the French soldiers, once broken, surge forward, their swords flashing in the dusk. The English, stunned, start to falter. By May 8, 1429, the siege is broken. The English retreat, their cannons silent, and Orléans erupts in bells and tears. You're in the streets, watching people embrace, weeping like they've woken from a nightmare. Joan, bloodied but standing, holds her banner as the city calls her a miracle. Here's the odd detail. During the battle, Joan predicts where an enemy cannonball will hit, warning a soldier to move just in time. Historians still debate whether this was divine insight or sharp instinct. Was she seeing the future or just reading the battlefield better than most? For a quick laugh, imagine Joan dodging that arrow and yelling, "Nice try, England, but my saints have better aim." Or picture her rallying her men with, "Come on, boys, God's not here for a nap." One more. Maybe she told her banner, "You're doing great, but don't get cocky." But seriously, you're standing in Orléans, the air ringing with victory. Joan's done the impossible. but her eyes are already on Reims. You can feel it. She's not stopping here. You're standing in the wake of Orléans' liberation, May 1429. The air still ringing with bells and the cheers of a city reborn. Joan's victory has changed everything. You see her, still in her white armor, her banner held high, surrounded by soldiers who no longer smirk but salute. The people of Orléans crowd the streets, throwing flowers, touching her horse like it's a relic. She's not just a girl anymore, she's the maid, the spark that turned despair into defiance. But you can sense her urgency. She doesn't linger in the celebration. Her voices are clear. The Dauphin must be crowned in Reims, the sacred city where French kings have been anointed for centuries. You're about to march with her through enemy lands, toward a moment that could stitch France back together. The road to Reims is no easy path. You ride out with Joan and her growing army, the banner fluttering like a heartbeat. The landscape is scarred, burned villages, empty fields, bridges broken by war. English garrisons hold key towns, and their Burgundian allies, French traitors siding with England, lurk in the shadows. You feel the tension in the air, the weight of a kingdom hanging on every step, but Joan moves like she's following a map only she can see. Towns like Troyes and Chalons, once ready to resist, open their gates as her army approaches. You watch villagers line the roads, some kneeling, others waving, their faces lit with something you haven't seen in years. Hope. It's not just her victories, it's her presence, that calm fire in her eyes that makes them believe. On the 16th of July, 1429, you reach Reims. The city's gates swing wide, and you enter with Joan, her banner catching the sunlight. The cathedral looms ahead, its spires piercing the sky like a promise kept. You can smell the wax of candles, hear the hum of prayers as preparations begin. This is no small moment. Charles's coronation here will make him king in the eyes of France, a symbol of legitimacy the English can't break. Joan stands firm, her mission driving every step, even as nobles whisper behind her back, uneasy with her growing legend. Here's the odd detail. Joan insists her banner be present in the cathedral during the coronation, saying it shared the battles and deserves the honor. Historians still debate whether this was pure devotion or a subtle claim to her role. Was she honoring God or ensuring her place in history? For a quick laugh, imagine Joan telling a nervous soldier, "Relax, God's got the map. I'm just following." Or picture her banner getting tangled in a tree and Joan muttering, "Saints, give me patience with this thing, one more." Maybe she told the nobles, "My banner's invited, but your egos might need to sit this one out." But seriously, you're in Reims now. The cathedral doors open. Joan's voices are about to crown a king, and you're standing on the edge of history. You're in Reims, the 17th of July, 1429, standing in the vast cathedral as torchlight flickers across ancient stone walls. The air smells of incense and polished metal, and you can hear the soft rustle of silk robes and the clink of armor as nobles and clergy gather. Joan stands near the altar, her white banner steady in her hands, its golden lilies glowing like they're drinking in the light. This is the moment her voice has promised. Charles, the Dauphin, is about to become king. You watch as the archbishop anoints him with holy oil, the same oil used for centuries to crown French kings. The crown is placed on his head, and a cheer erupts, spilling out into the streets where people weep and shout his name. France has a king again, not just in name, but in sacred ritual, you feel the weight lift, like a nation taking its first deep breath in years. Joan doesn't smile or bask in the moment. Her face is calm, her eyes fixed on the banner, as if it's the real hero here. She's 17, a peasant girl who rode through war-torn lands, broke the siege of Orléans, and led this march to Reims. You see soldiers, once skeptical, now bow their heads as they pass her. The crowd outside chants her name, Jean, the maid, and you can't help but feel the electricity in the air. This isn't just a coronation, it's a rebirth. Charles is king, and Joan, standing quietly to the side, has delivered what no general could, a symbol of France unbroken. But you notice something else, a shadow creeping in. Some nobles, their faces tight with envy, whisper behind their hands. Joan's not one of them. No title, no lineage, just a girl with voices and a banner. They're grateful, sure, but you can sense their unease. She's too bright, too bold, too holy. Her presence challenges their tidy world of politics and power. You hear a courtier mutter, "Her work is done, she should go home." But Joan's voices haven't told her to stop. She's already looking north, to Paris, still under English control. You feel the pull of her mission, relentless, like a river carving stone. Here's the odd detail. During the coronation, Joan kneels and weeps, not for joy, but because she feels her mission is nearing a turning point. Historians still debate whether these tears were relief or a premonition of the trials ahead. Did she sense her own fate, or was she simply overwhelmed by the moment? For a quick laugh, imagine Joan nudging a noble during the ceremony, whispering, "Bet my banner's shinier than your crown." Or picture her trying to hold that heavy banner all day, muttering, "St. Michael, can you take a shift? One more." Maybe she told Charles, "Congrats, King, but don't get comfy. Paris is next." But seriously, you're standing in Reims, the cathedral glowing, the crown secured. Joan's done the impossible, but you can feel the tide turning. Her light burns bright, and not everyone loves the glow. You're still in Reims, the cathedral's glow fading as the coronation's cheers echo into the July 1429 night. The air smells of wax and wine, and the streets hum with celebration, but you sense a chill creeping into the royal court. Joan stands apart, her white banner furled now, her armor dusty from the long march. She's delivered Charles his crown, turned a doubtful dauphin into a king. But you notice the noble's eyes, some shine with gratitude, others narrow with something colder. You hear whispers in the halls, soft as silk but sharp as knives. She's done her part. She's too loud, too strange. A peasant shouldn't outshine a king. Joan's not one of them, and that's starting to matter. You feel the shift, like a breeze before a storm. Joan doesn't care about the whispers. Her voices are still speaking, urging her forward. You see her approach Charles, her voice steady, saying they must march on Paris, the heart of France, still under English control. It's a bold plan. Paris is a fortress, guarded by English troops and their Burgundian allies. But Joan's not thinking strategy. She's thinking destiny. The time is now, she tells him, her eyes burning with that quiet fire you've come to know. Charles, though, hesitates. You watch him, newly crowned, surrounded by advisors who speak of caution, treaties, waiting. They want diplomacy, not banners, negotiations, not battles. Joan's urgency feels like a thorn in their polished plans. You follow her as she leaves Reims, leading smaller campaigns to nearby towns like Soissons and Léon. Her banner still draws crowds, villagers kneel, soldiers rally, but you notice her army is thinner now. Charles isn't sending reinforcements like before. You see her ride through fields, her armor catching the sun, but the men behind her are fewer, their faces tired. She liberates towns, sometimes without a fight, her presence enough to make gates open. But the court's support is slipping, and you feel it like a weight on your chest. Joan's faith hasn't wavered, but the world around her is starting to tilt. She's aflame, and not everyone wants to stand near the heat. Here's the odd detail. Joan writes a letter to the Duke of Burgundy, an English ally, urging him to switch sides and join Charles, signing it with her illiterate scrawl. Historians still debate whether this was naive optimism or a calculated move to weaken the enemy. Was she overconfident, or playing a longer game? For a quick laugh, imagine Joan dictating that letter and muttering, "St. Catherine, make sure this guy doesn't laugh at my spelling." Or picture her telling a hesitant soldier, "Come on, Paris won't free itself. One more." Maybe she looked at her shrinking army and said, "Well, God, I guess we're going for quality over quantity." But seriously, you're riding with Joan, the road to Paris ahead, the court's whispers behind. Her banner's still high, but you can feel the storm gathering. She's not just fighting the English now, she's fighting doubt itself. You're on the road with Joan, late summer 1429, the dust of Reims' coronation fading behind you. The air smells of sweat and leather, and her white banner still flutters ahead, but you notice the ranks behind her are thinner, the soldiers' faces more worn. Charles, now king, lingers in his palaces, his court buzzing with cautious advisors who talk of truces and deals. Joan's different, she's not done. Her voices, Saint Michael, Saint Catherine, Saint Margaret, are still clear, urging her to press on, to take Paris, to drive the English from France. You see her ride with that same quiet fire, her armor dented but gleaming, her eyes fixed on a future only she can see. But you feel the weight of something new, distance. The king's support is waning, his letters sparse, his reinforcements scarcer. You march toward Compiègne, a strategic town north of Paris, in spring 1430. The English and their Burgundian allies hold strong here, and Joan's determined to keep it French. You're with her on May 23, as she rides out with a small force to face a Burgundian assault. The skirmish is chaotic, swords clash, horses scream, and you see Joan at the front, her banner high, shouting for her men to hold the line. But the tide turns fast. The enemy presses hard, and Joan orders a retreat to Compiègne's walls. You're running with them, heart pounding, expecting the gates to open, but they don't. The drawbridge stays up, the gates locked. You freeze, stunned, as Joan's surrounded. Burgundian soldiers swarm, pulling her from her horse, her banner falling to the dirt. She fights, but there's no escape. She's captured, bound, and dragged away. You stand there, the dust settling, the silence deafening. Why didn't the gates open? Was it panic, confusion, or something darker, betrayal? The townsfolk watch, helpless, as Joan, the Maid of Orléans, is taken in chains. You look to the horizon, half expecting Charles to send an army, a ransom, anything. But nothing comes. The king she crowned stays silent. Here's the odd detail. During the battle, Joan's horse was reportedly shot out from under her, yet she kept fighting on foot until the end. Historians still debate whether the closed gates were a mistake or a deliberate act. Was it fear, or did someone want her gone? For a quick laugh, imagine Joan shouting at the gatekeeper, Open the door, or I'll tell St. Michael you're slacking. Or picture her trying to calm her horse mid-battle. Easy, buddy. God's got this. One more. Maybe she looked at her captors and said, "You're gonna regret this, but my saints have a long memory." But seriously, you're watching Joan disappear into enemy hands, her armor stripped, Hea, Bana gone. France's savior is a prisoner now, and the silence from her king cuts deeper than any sword. You're in a cold, shadowed cell in Rouen, late 1430, the air heavy with damp stone and the faint clank of chains. Joan, no longer in her white armor, sits bound, her hair shorn, her dress plain and worn. The Burgundians, who captured her at Compiègne, didn't keep her long. They sold her to the English for 10,000 livres tournois, a fortune that shows how much they fear her. You can feel the weight of her isolation. No allies, no banner, just a 19-year-old girl facing a world that wants her broken. The English don't see her as a soldier. They could have ransomed her for that. Instead, they drag her to a church court, accusing her of heresy and witchcraft. You're in the courtroom now, a cavernous hall filled with robed theologians and Bishop Pierre Cauchon, an English loyalist, leading the charge. This isn't a trial for justice. It's a trap to destroy her legend. You watch as they question her, day after day, their voices sharp, their quills scratching every word. They ask about her voices, St. Michael, St. Catherine, St. Margaret, demanding to know why they chose her, a peasant girl. They probe her choice to wear men's clothing, calling it unnatural, sinful. "It kept me safe among soldiers," she says, her voice calm, unshaken. You see the judges lean in, hoping she'll slip, but she doesn't. She answers with a clarity that stings, her faith like a shield. "I act by God's will," she says, and you feel the room tense, not because she's loud, but because she's steady. Even chained, even alone, she carries an authority that makes the scholars fidget. Here's the odd detail. Joan refuses to swear an oath to reveal everything about her visions, saying some things are between her and God. This defiance frustrates the court, but earns quiet respect from some scribes. Historians still debate whether this secrecy was to protect her mission's sanctity or to guard against manipulation. Was she shielding her faith or outsmarting her accusers? For a quick laugh, imagine Joan eyeing a pompous bishop and thinking, "St. Catherine says, your hat's too big for heaven." Or picture her muttering to her chains, "At least you're quieter than those noisy theologians." One more. Maybe she told a scribe, "Write faster or my saints will give you a heavenly deadline." But seriously, you're in Rouen's courtroom, watching Joan stand firm as the questions pile up. Charles, the king she crowned, sends no help, no word. The trial's a farce, but Joan's truth is brighter than the lies closing in. You can feel it, she's not breaking. Not yet. You're in Rouen, early 1431, standing in a crowded courtroom that smells of ink and old wood. The stone walls echo with the low murmur of scribes and the sharp voices of theologians, their robes rustling as they lean forward, eyes fixed on Joan. She's 19, chained, her face pale but steady, her eyes carrying that quiet fire you've seen since Domremy. The trial, led by Bishop Pierre Cauchon, isn't about truth, it's a stage to dismantle her. The English want her erased, not just as a prisoner, but as a symbol. They accuse her of heresy, witchcraft, and defying the church by wearing men's clothing. You watch her answer their endless questions, her voice clear, cutting through their traps like a blade through fog. "My voices come from God," she says. "I wear these clothes for safety, not sin. You feel the room shift her. Calm unnerves them. Her clarity stings. They press harder, asking about her visions, her banner, her victories. Did God tell you to crown Charles? One demands. He told me to save France, she replies. And you see a scribe pause, quill hovering, as if her words carry weight beyond the room. They try to trip her, asking if she's sure of her salvation. I trust in God, she says, simple but unshakable. You can almost hear the judge's frustration, their plans unraveling as this uneducated girl outwits them. But the verdict was written before the trial began. On May 24, they declare her guilty of heresy. You watch as they offer her a way out, recant, deny her voices, wear a dress. For a moment, under crushing pressure, she signs a confession, but days later, she takes it back, standing again in men's clothes, refusing to betray her truth. Here's the odd detail. Joan's recantation lasts only a few days before she reclaims her male clothing, saying her voices rebuked her for faltering. Historians still debate whether this was a moment of fear or a calculated stand. Was she humanly weak or defiantly faithful? For a quick laugh, imagine Joan looking at the judge's scrolls and thinking, "My saints send better messages than your paperwork." Or picture her whispering to her chains, "At least you don't ask me trick questions." One more. Maybe she told a scribe, "Write that down, but don't expect God to sign it." But seriously, you're watching the trial's end. The sentence is death by fire. Joan stands tall, her faith unbroken, but you feel the storm closing in. The king she crowned is silent, and Rouen marketplace waits with its stake and flames. You're in Rouen, May 30, 1431, standing in the crowded marketplace as the morning sun casts long shadows. The air smells of wood smoke and fear, and you feel the press of the crowd, townsfolk, soldiers, priests, some weeping, some silent, all drawn to witness history's cruel turn. At the center, a stake rises, piled high with wood, and Joan, just 19, is led forward. Her hair is shaved, her hands bound, her simple dress a far cry from the white armor of Orléans. Yet her eyes, those eyes that burned with quiet fire, still hold steady. You watch her ask for a cross, and a kind priest fashions one from 2 sticks, pressing it into her hands. She clutches it tightly, like it's her banner reborn. Another cross is held high so she can see it through the flames. The executioner lights the fire, and you flinch as the flames leap, hungry and fast, curling up the wood. Smoke swirls, thick and gray. But Joan doesn't scream or curse. You hear her voice, soft but clear, calling out Jesus through the crackling heat. The crowd is silent, some turning away, unable to watch. You feel the weight of it. This isn't just a death. It's a moment that will echo for centuries. The flames consume her, leaving only ashes, but you sense something unshakable taking root. The English meant to erase her, to burn away her legend, but they've done the opposite. You see it in the faces of the crowd, grief, awe, and a spark of defiance. Joan's body is gone, but her story is just beginning. Here's the odd detail. Even the executioner, hardened by his trade, later confesses he feared he'd damned himself by burning her, believing she was holy. Historians still debate whether her calm in the flames swayed even her enemies. Did her death plant seeds of doubt in their victory? For a quick laugh, imagine Joan looking at the stake and whispering, "Saint Michael, you didn't mention this part of the plan." Or picture her telling the fire, "You're hot, but my faith's hotter." One more. Maybe she thought, "Heaven's got better views than Rouen anyway." But seriously, you're standing in the ashes of her pyre, feeling France shift. Her voices are silent now, but her light burns on. You are back in the quiet now. The flames of Rouen long faded, the marketplace empty. Joan's story doesn't end in that fire. It grows, soft as a whisper, strong as a river. Years later, in 1456, the church clears her name, calling her trial unjust, her execution a crime. By 1920, she's declared a saint, her courage canonized, her faith eternal. You see her legacy in France's heart, in the soldiers who carried her name through wars, in the dreamers who saw her as proof that one voice can change a nation. She was a peasant, a warrior, a martyr, but most of all, she was Joan, unyielding, unbroken, a light that no fire could dim. So as you drift off tonight, picture her banner, white and gold, fluttering in a gentle wind. Let her story wrap around you, warm and steady. Sleep well, knowing some sparks never fade.